Hello, welcome to the A Book a Day channel. In this video, I will be interpreting the book Huawei Teamwork Method in simple terms. This book uses Huawei as an example to explain how to effectively manage talent at a high level of quality. The author of this book is Wu Jianguo, who joined Huawei in 1996 and served as the Vice President of Human Resources at Huawei. Those familiar with Huawei know that in the second year, 1997, Huawei initiated a continuous management reform that lasted for 17 years, with talent management reform being a top priority. Wu Jianguo was appointed as the Vice President of Human Resources at Huawei and was a core member in building Huawei's talent management system. Later, Wu Jianguo left Huawei but continued to focus on management consulting services in the field of human resources. And he also served as a distinguished professor at Hupan University, founded by Jack Ma, another well-known Chinese internet company founder. In the knowledge economy era, many entrepreneurs are saying that talent is the core competitiveness of a company. However, Rin Xingfi, the founder of Huawei, says, talent is not Huawei's core competitiveness. The ability to effectively manage talent is the core competitiveness of a company. You see, the statement gets to the root of the problem. Many companies don't lack talent. They lack the ability to use talent effectively, which means they cannot transform their human resources into a powerful value-creating capability. This is what is often referred to as not using talent well, not growing it quickly, and not being able to adapt. Some companies initially have a highly effective and cohesive team, but over time, team morale erodes, or the organization becomes rigid and loses its ability to continuously evolve, which can be fatal. So it's not just talent but effective talent management that is a company's core competitiveness. However, how to effectively manage talent is a significant challenge, and many entrepreneurs find it daunting. They invest a lot of money in recruiting talent, providing training, and offering incentives, but it's often unclear whether these actions have a good effect and whether the return on investment is high. Of course, this is related to the high complexity of human capital, and there is no one-size-fits-all solution. Effective talent management is a dynamic and ongoing process. Wu Jianguo said that in recent years, his work in human resources management consulting is like a doctor in a clinic, and there are so many patients coming for consultation that almost every company has made significant mistakes in talent management. As a doctor, he can only attend to a small fraction of them. Therefore, Wu Jianguo decided to document the methodology he has developed in talent management so that more entrepreneurs can understand how benchmark companies are currently operating and identify areas for improvement in their own organizations. In this book, Wu Jianguo summarizes Huawei's talent management approach into 3 core actions: precise selection, accelerated growth, and effective motivation. These 3 points may sound like common knowledge, but in practice, you will find that there are many challenges, and it's very difficult to implement them effectively. The difference between benchmark companies and regular companies lies in how well they execute these core actions. In the following, I will provide a detailed explanation of how to effectively implement these 3 core actions and the key techniques involved. First, let's talk about the precise selection of talent, which is essentially the process of building a team. When we talk about building a team, we generally focus on inflow, which is how to select talent. This is indeed crucial, but we often overlook the other side, which is outflow, or the mechanism for talent to exit. If talent only comes in and doesn't go out, especially if there's no reasonable system for movement, elimination, and exit, the organization will inevitably become stagnant. So, to build a good team, both inflow and outflow of talent are equally important. Let's start with inflow. Everyone knows that the principle of talent acquisition is to accurately identify talent and place the right people in the right positions to ensure a match between their abilities and the job. This may seem easy, and many bosses believe that they have a keen eye for talent. However, Wu Jianguo reminds us that this is actually a misconception. According to a survey by the American Management Association, the job role fit rate in American companies is only around 50%. Jack Welch, the legendary CEO of General Electric, stated that it took him 30 years to increase the talent identification rate from 50% to 80%. Currently, in Chinese companies, the talent identification rate is generally only about 30%. So, what makes talent identification so challenging? The most crucial issue is that during the recruitment process, interviewers often fall into the first impression trap. If an applicant impresses the interviewer right from the start, the interviewer will actively look for evidence to support their initial impression during the conversation, which can lead to emotional decision-making and misjudgment. In psychology, this phenomenon is known as cognitive dissonance. In a previous program, I shared a technique with job seekers on how to quickly make a positive impression on interviewers. For example, In the first part of an interview, which is usually a self-introduction, you can research who the role models in the company are and what qualities they possess. If you share some of these qualities, you can highlight them in your self-introduction. If something you say resonates with the interviewer, they are more likely to fall into the first impression trap. So if you are the interviewer, how can you avoid falling into this trap? If I were the interviewer, I would never ask the candidate for a self-introduction. Instead, I would assess their capabilities directly to avoid being misled. So how does Huawei do it? They have established objective criteria for assessing talent's capabilities to minimize subjectivity and randomness during interviews. Specifically, Huawei does 3 things. First, they define the key responsibilities and essential skills and qualities required for critical positions, and then objectively evaluate candidates based on these criteria. Second, they design interview questions for each different position and create an interview question bank. Third, they provide training and certification for all potential interviewers within the company. Interviewers who have undergone professional training are more cautious about falling into the first impression trap. After implementing these 3 steps, Huawei's talent identification capability made a significant leap. It's important to note that this is just one aspect of talent identification, focusing on capabilities. However, is having the right skills sufficient for qualification? Not entirely. There's an old Chinese saying, "Decay jian bei," which means both ability and morality are required. Many companies overlook the importance of ethics. Some people believe that discussing ethics in a corporate context is too abstract, and it's challenging to assess whether a person has ethics during an interview, so they skip this aspect. This can lead to significant problems. In reality, ethics in a company is not only real but also crucial. It relates to a company's culture and core values. If a person does not align with a company's culture and core values, no matter how skilled they are, they can cause significant disruption to the company. Hiring such individuals is akin to planting a time bomb for the company. We all know that Huawei suffered due to this issue. Li Yinan, a brilliant individual highly regarded by Ren Xingfei, left the company due to a clash of values, sparking a 6-year-long father-son battle and causing significant harm to Huawei. So how can you effectively identify values during an interview? Although it may not be entirely precise, it's still possible to make an initial judgment. For example, Huawei's core values are customer centricity and striving for excellence. To truly be customer-centric, an individual must have a caring and empathetic nature, be skilled at considering issues from others' perspectives rather than always putting oneself at the center of everything. How can you assess this quality during an interview? For fresh graduates, interviewers can ask questions like, how did you resolve a significant conflict with your parents, or how did you overcome a breakup? The candidate's answers can reveal whether they tend to think from their perspective or from the other person's perspective. Similarly, for experienced candidates, interviewers can inquire about how they handled unreasonable customer demands, and so on. In summary, when identifying talent during the hiring phase, it's crucial to assess both capabilities and values, with values taking precedence. Having covered the inflow aspect, let's now talk about outflow. Wu Jianguo mentions that some entrepreneurs like to place a mythical beast called Pixie on their desks, which is believed to only bring wealth in and not let it out, symbolizing the continuous inflow of money. However, when looking at talent from the perspective of renewal and growth, both for individuals and companies, if there is a only bring in, not let out approach, it can be problematic. When Huawei was consulting with IBM, the company had a total turnover rate of 5%. At that time, many believed that they needed to reduce the turnover rate among core employees. However, IBM consultants told them they were wrong. A 5% turnover rate was too low, not too high. In leading international companies, a turnover rate of 10% to 20% for knowledge workers is considered reasonable. In high-growth companies, a common problem is that early leaders or veterans rest on their laurels, occupy high positions, and receive high salaries but no longer contribute to the company's growth and value creation. In such cases, how can this issue be addressed? Directly firing such individuals might not be ideal and could lead to internal conflicts. However, allowing these senior employees to continue without contributing significantly to the company can harm team morale significantly. This issue has been a serious concern at Huawei, with many long-term employees relying heavily on virtual stock bonuses and showing little interest in salary or bonuses, conflicting with Huawei's core value of striving for excellence. To address this, Huawei has established a dynamic management mechanism for its leadership team, where individuals can both rise and fall in their positions and can enter and exit the company. Wu Jianguo considers this the essence of Huawei's talent management, but also the most challenging part to learn. The rise and fall aspect means that leaders can be promoted or demoted, and Huawei has many examples of leaders who have experienced multiple promotions and demotions. Wu Jianguo himself, during his time at Huawei, was once reassigned to a remote area to work in frontline sales. Of course, if one performs well at the grassroots level, there is an opportunity for promotion. In addition to being able to rise and fall, leadership teams must also be able to enter and exit, meaning that an exit mechanism for leaders should be established. When we think of exit, we often think of layoffs, but there are many ways to exit individuals from the organization. In Huawei, they mainly use several methods: early retirement, transitioning to a consulting role, transitioning to a subsidiary business, or supporting internal entrepreneurship. Supporting internal entrepreneurship is a win-win approach for the company and the departing employees. For example, Oppo, a Chinese smartphone manufacturer, has a powerful distributor team, and many of these distributors are former employees of Oppo who started their own businesses. They formed a long-term community of interests with Oppo based on shared values. In summary, a key takeaway from this first part is that Huawei's approach to building a team involves paying attention to both inflow and outflow, and they implement a dynamic management mechanism that allows for upward and downward mobility and entry and exit of talent. Building a good team and achieving the right fit between individuals and positions is just the first step in talent management. As a company grows, employees' capabilities must also grow along with it. In other words, only when employees' capabilities grow can a company truly achieve growth. So the second step in talent management is how to accelerate an employee's growth after they join the company. When it comes to skill improvement, people often think of spending money on training, sending employees to courses, or hiring external instructors. However, such employee training often fails to achieve the desired results. The content of external training is not closely related to employees' actual work, making it difficult for them to apply what they learn. On the flip side, when employees feel that what they are learning is not immediately useful, they may lack motivation and initiative, treating it as a mere task. To use an imperfect analogy, if a company only relies on external training, it's like parents handing over the responsibility of educating their children entirely to schools and teachers, not actively participating, which is clearly not effective. In reality, training employees is an important responsibility of the senior management within the entire company, especially the company's top leadership. For instance, the president of Huawei University is Ren Xingfi himself, and others can only serve as executive vice presidents. All senior leaders at Huawei must take turns serving as instructors for new employee training. Additionally, all middle and senior managers at Huawei must obtain qualifications as corporate trainers and coaches to become coaches for their subordinates. The greatest benefit of having managers train and guide employees themselves is that the training content focuses on practical skills and real-work scenarios, addressing how to solve real problems encountered in their work. The cases used are not unrelated Harvard business cases, but real cases from the company's actual operations. Moreover, employees can practice and learn as they perform their job tasks, combining training with real work. The ultimate goal of training is to ensure that employees are capable of achieving success in their job tasks. Huawei calls this training method Jianguo, which emphasizes authenticity, deriving from and returning to practice. Not only new employees, but also the management team needs training. For instance, Wu Jianguo himself, initially middle-level manager and part of the reserve talent pool, entered a high-level leadership development program. The program began with 2 weeks of classroom learning, focusing on strategic thinking and policy understanding, among other topics that senior executives need to master. This was followed by 3 months of practical training. In this phase, Wu Jianguo's direct supervisor acted as his training coach, engaging in one-on-one discussions to identify the 2 skills that needed the most improvement. The coach then created a detailed skill improvement plan for Wu Jianguo, with a concentrated push for skill enhancement over 3 months, offering regular guidance. After 3 months, they assessed whether these 2 skills had improved in practical terms. Practical experience has shown that this Jianguo training method is highly effective. 3 months later, among the training participants, 50% of them had significantly improved the 2 skills they had worked on. Furthermore, the improvement in employee skills directly translates into improved performance for Huawei, making the return on investment in training very high. In addition to the vertical talent development, there is also a horizontal mechanism for replicating talent in similar positions. For example, if you currently have 20 bubble tea shops and want to expand to 150 in 2 years, how do you rapidly replicate over 100 qualified store managers within such a short time frame? This was a real issue for Huawei. In the early 21st century, Huawei's global business covered only 20 countries, but the company's strategic decision was to expand its business to 180 countries within 5 years. How do you quickly replicate key talents responsible for developing international markets, known internally as country representatives, in such a short time? Huawei's approach was to distill successful experiences into standardized training materials and scale up their dissemination. It involved a three-step process. First, identify the best-performing country representatives from each of the 5 continents worldwide and bring them back to the headquarters. They were tasked with listing the key issues involved in expanding overseas markets. By comparing their lists, it was found that nearly 2/3 of the problems overlapped. These common issues were summarized into 9 key questions, such as customs issues, factory construction, labor problems, and government relations, among others. Once these issues were understood, about 70% minus 80% of the challenges involved in expanding overseas markets were essentially resolved. The second step was to turn these 8 key issues into 8 training topics and assign them to 5 country representatives. Each of them was responsible for developing 1-2 training topics, including creating teaching materials, producing course materials, and actually teaching them. During this process, training experts provided professional guidance to these 5 country representatives. The third step involved recruiting students for practical training. After the training was completed and the employees passed their defenses, they could be officially deployed overseas. When these employees stepped onto the battlefield and began working, they found that most of the issues they encountered had already been rehearsed in sandboxes, enabling them to handle challenges calmly and systematically. Through this approach, Huawei trained hundreds of country representatives, ensuring the rapid expansion of its overseas business. This standardized and scaled replication of successful experiences, especially for horizontal training of talents in similar positions, is much more efficient than the traditional method of apprenticeship and can be adopted by all companies. With a talent replication mechanism, companies can break free from extreme dependence on individual genius-like figures. Ren Xingfi has a very clear understanding of this. When Wu Jianguo first joined Huawei, Ren Xingfi's right-hand men were Li Yinan and Zheng Beiyang. Ren Xingfi told Wu Jianguo, "By putting you in charge of human resource management, I hope to select and cultivate 100 Li Yinans and 100 Zheng Beiyangs within 3-5 years." A few years later, Li Yinan left Huawei, and Zheng Beiyang suffered from brain cancer and had to seek treatment in the United States. Ren Xingfi lost his right-hand men, but Huawei continued to forge ahead. It was only at this point that Wu Jianguo truly understood Ren Xingfi's thoughtful intention at that time. To sum up the second part, the key to accelerating employee growth at Huawei is the establishment of a vertical and horizontal talent development system. The vertical aspect refers to developing a ladder of talent, with managers at various levels personally serving as coaches, utilizing the Quanzhengjiao training method to promote the growth of all employees. The horizontal aspect involves the rapid replication of talents who meet the same position requirements through the standardization of successful experiences. However, the growth of employee capabilities doesn't necessarily mean they will work diligently. Capability and motivation are not the same. Moreover, when employees grow, there's a likelihood they might be poached by other companies. This leads us to the third core action in talent management, which is effective motivation. Effective motivation can unleash a person's potential and increase their loyalty to the company. When we talk about motivation, we often think of financial incentives. And there's a famous saying attributed to Ren Xingfi: "As long as you pay enough, even someone who isn't talented can become talented." It's often said, under the lure of a big reward, brave men are sure to emerge. But is it really that simple? Many companies, seeing that Huawei is generous with monetary incentives, try to emulate this approach by offering financial rewards. However, they often fail to get the same results and, in fact, can lead to disputes among employees due to an inequitable distribution of benefits, leading to what we could call easy robbery but hard division. Why does Huawei's approach of giving money work to motivate employees, while others' attempts often result in disputes? Wu Jianguo explains that those who try to emulate Huawei often misunderstand the logic of motivation. Huawei's employees are not working hard just because they are paid well. Huawei employees are motivated to work hard because they first identify with Huawei's mission, vision, and values. They are internally motivated by these factors, and high financial incentives serve as a complement to ensure that hardworking employees are not left at a disadvantage and do not have to worry about their future. This way, everyone's focus remains on the battle itself rather than being overly concerned about who receives a little more or less. On the contrary, if you use a mercenary model, where employees go into battle just for the money, their focus is certainly on the money, which can easily lead to disputes over how the rewards are distributed. The combat effectiveness of such a team facing a strong enemy is not hard to predict. So, the most important form of motivation for employees is the motivating power of mission, vision, and values. Only when this top 3 form of motivation is in place can the effects of financial incentives become evident. Otherwise, it could backfire, especially when a company is in its early stages, without a brand and unable to offer high salaries. The only way to attract and motivate talent is through the mission and vision. The book tells a story about how Ren Xingfei recruited Zheng Beiyuan. In 1987, when Huawei had just been established, it was a trading company representing the sale of fire protection equipment and electronic components. One day, by chance, Huawei started selling telephone exchange equipment and realized the high profit and market potential of this product. They decided to produce these products themselves. However, after researching for over 6 months, there wasn't much progress. At that time, the project leader and the current rotating chairman of Huawei, Wu Ping, told Ren Xingfei that he had a classmate named Zheng Beiyuan, who was super smart. He believed that Zheng Beiyuan could handle it if he took charge of the research and development. But at that time, Zheng Beiyuan had just been admitted to Hupan University for a PhD program. How could he be persuaded to give up his studies and work for an unknown private company? After listening to the story, Ren Xingfei said, "It's okay, let's give it a try." Later, Ren Xingfei went to Beijing for a business trip and met Zheng Beiyuan. As soon as they met, Ren Xingfei explained the dire situation in the Chinese communication equipment market, which was divided among 7 developed countries, and these products were not interconnected, causing great inconvenience to customers. Then Ren Xingfei said, "I came to find you because I want to do something big with you, which is to enable Chinese people to use their own products." Zheng Beiyuan recalled that he was deeply moved when he heard this. Ren Xingfei continued, "After you join Huawei, I'll directly appoint you as the chief engineer in charge of the company's entire product research and development. You can also enjoy the highest level of basic salary in the company." With this chain reaction of motivation, Ren Xingfei managed to turn the impossible into a possibility, and Zheng Beiyuan agreed to join Huawei on the spot. Within less than 2 years, he introduced Huawei's first independently developed product. This story teaches us that when motivating real talents, the primary form of motivation should be mission and vision, with financial incentives serving as a safeguard. The order of these steps is critical. When it comes to financial incentives, 2 things need to be considered. First, your performance evaluation standards must align with the company's culture and values. For instance, many companies emphasize customer focus, but in performance evaluations, they often only prioritize short-term profits, neglecting important indicators like customer experience and safety. This has led to incidents like Baidu's Huawei case and Didi's Hitch service. Similarly, some companies promote teamwork and collaboration but focus solely on individual performance during performance evaluations. This creates a contradiction between financial and mission-based incentives, and these 2 aspects not only fail to complement each other but can cancel each other out, ultimately leading to ineffective motivation. The second point to consider when offering financial incentives is to manage employee expectations. The same bonus, when higher than an employee's expectations, is motivating, but when it's lower, the motivation becomes less effective or even negative. So what matters isn't the absolute value of the bonus, but the difference between the bonus and employee expectations. Managing expectations and aligning them with rational objectives is the key to maintaining motivation. In Huawei, as high as 90% of employees do not meet their own goals. Yet apart from the poorest 5%, most employees receive bonuses, and these bonuses are often significant. This creates a sense of guilt among employees who haven't met their objectives, motivating them to work harder and achieve better results in the following year. If you set your goals too low, employees may feel overly confident in their abilities, and their expectations will naturally rise. To summarize the third part, the key to effective motivation at Huawei is to lead with mission and vision, using financial incentives as support. It's crucial to get the sequence right. When using financial incentives, 2 points need special attention. First, ensure that performance evaluation standards align with the company's values, and second, manage employee expectations. In conclusion, Wu Jianguo's book discusses the 3 core actions of Huawei's talent management. 1. Precise selection of talent, which involves dynamic management allowing people to enter and exit positions efficiently. 2. Accelerated growth of talent, which includes vertical development of a talent pipeline and horizontal replication of successful experiences. 3. Effective motivation for talent, starting with mission and vision as primary motivators, with financial incentives acting as support. These principles have been instrumental in Huawei's talent management, and the book provides valuable insights into these strategies. All right, this is the essence of this book. Congratulations on completing another book.